All right, so we're here in the National Forest. We're at the Cochise Stronghold here in Arizona, and it's a couple hours after we left the Fort Huachuca National Monument. And we feel it's important to make this connection between that militarized space and these sacred mountains that were the place of protection for the Apache for decades as they struggled against the U.S. Military forces to take control of the resources of these lands. And so as some of you know, I spend my time, I'm connected with a public garden, and so I thought when I was making this trip that it would be important to sort of bring some acknowledgement and some plant, some leaves, not invasives, but just an acknowledgement of the sort of connection of all of us from the East Coast to the West Coast in this struggle. And we brought here the mothers that have come along. One of them I gave to the host of our panel, because I think these poppets, these holders of the natural material, the keepers of life, they need to sort of journey around in the world. And so at least one of them is going to stay here in Tucson to keep an eye on things. And then again, we have this, the panopticon, the anti-panopticon, which is the eye of life. And I sort of imagine it as the eye of the eagle that is looking out for us as we conduct this journey of collective healing. And so during my talks I gave this weekend, I talked a lot about Stephen Newcomb's book, Pagans in the Promised Land. And Stephen has committed his life to understanding Indian law, especially as regards to its position as the foundation of property law in the United States, and looking at the original language of the papal bulls and the framing of domination of indigenous people, of the original people to this land, and legitimizing the idea that they were heathens to take over their lands and resources and to attempt to erase their culture. So I think that was a really important message, especially because our host has ancestry connected to the Hawaiian Kingdom, to talk about resistance struggle, because as we face this global economic reset is not unlike what the original people faced when the conquerors came to impose new systems of extraction and militarization on the lands here in southern Arizona near the border. So I want to acknowledge and appreciate Stephen's teachings and recommend this work. And then have a bit of tobacco that I just want to lay down in gratitude and for being able to do this work, and acknowledging that I don't know exactly if I'm doing it in the right way, but I'm attempting to hold space for the collective sort of to acknowledge this historical trajectory, that we may come together in understanding how we got here to find a more principled way to move forward on behalf of life, the children, and nature. So I will offer this, I will make this offering, and I will also, so I have a number of leaves. I have oak leaves, and we are here at the base of these mountains. Again, what they were participating in defending their lands was what today would be considered probably asymmetrical warfare, and that's something the military spends a lot of time considering. But they were sheltered by the other beings on the lands that they knew, including these mountains. And this is there are bodies of water along these mountains that have oak trees. And so these are eastern oaks. I'm going to lay these down. Linden from the East Coast. Dandelion. A little more linden. So I'm going to just I have yew trees. And when I placed all of these, I didn't want to just throw them in a baggie and bring them. I wanted to put them in a book. And so, of course, it was the John Trudell's poetry book that presented itself as the perfect book for that. And I will say these actually came from Washington State. These are little maple helicopters in this beautiful red from a friend. So those are there as well. And let me see, I had some ginkgos in here. Ginkgos, because again, we have Asia represented, and this is a global This is a global engagement of to save natural life from nanotechnology, right? And the ginkgo would represent Asia in that as well. This is not a United States versus other countries in this engagement around biotech. The dandelions are across these continents, and we need to use everything at our disposal, I think, to bring a peaceful resolution. So I think those are most all of my, oh, here's a bit. So I'm going to make this offering towards a healing intention, towards a transmutation of the militarization that American culture had brought into this space, the extractive nature of both the mining industries that are around here, and in looking at the ghost towns and the ways in which extraction always leads to an end, that the next level of extraction is against our minds and our bodies as data, right? And so as we see the ghost towns that we drove past on the dirt road in, what does a ghost town of the soul look like? You know, I think that's something we have to think about. What is a ghost town of the soul? So I have one poem to read in this space, and it's called Questions. So again, this is from lines from A Mind Mind, and this is John Trudell, and who was given the lines probably by Tina Trudell Manning, and this poem is called Questions. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Questions are windows for your mind. See all you can see. Learn all you can know. The night has answers, as does the light of day. As we are taught to buy and sell, we must remember how to give, what to give, a way to live. As we are taught to own and possess, we must remember how to love, still to care. Why we are here, there is a reason. This, our world, this is our season. Do not be afraid to ask questions. To ask questions. Questions are windows for your mind. See all that you can see. Learn all that you can know. The night has answers, as does the light of day. And so to close out this day, a day of learning and being on this land, I just want to emphasize that this is the moment to question. And in this moment, when they want to turn us into things that own and can be owned and possessed, and to thingify us, as Dr. King had said, we must know how to love and care, and to be able to see with eyes, to see the truth, and then to act on that knowledge, act from a principled place. And so I just want to acknowledge the struggles of the Apache for decades, of Cochise and then later Geronimo, and of all of there were 1,000 people who were in these mountains, warriors and women and children who grew up and lived for decades among these mountains and these creek valleys and the oaks to try to find a way to preserve their world against a conquering force. And that is a true thing. And the Fort Huachuca Monument framed it as the cavalry they were bringing law and order, and they were protecting settlers and ranchers and miners. And so we have to come to terms with that narrative, and what that narrative meant for Apache children who died, and families that were broken. Because law and order, who gets to decide law and order? And I think in many respects that's part of Stephen's book, is to talk about, is it law and order of people who are issuing edicts across oceans to people on their own lands who know how to live in relationship to their lands for centuries? what is law and order, because we are about to face a new order, very likely an attempted new world order, and to see the history and to know and to learn and to be willing and open to these learning and new teachings and to adjust your understanding of the world is of vital importance to the healing that has to happen, to find a new way that looks to the old. So I'm grateful. I'm very grateful to be here tonight, to be able to see these oaks and see the sunset over these mountains, and to understand this story in a new way, and to hopefully bring that knowledge into my heart and bring that forward as my learnings for the future. All right.
See a butterfly or something just flew right
Oh.
there. You see it?
Yeah, I see it.
See if I
So,
can. Hold on.
so I guess a little moth just came to visit.
Oh, it's a moth.
It's a pretty moth. Visit our offering,
Good spot for it.
right? So, good night, everyone. Blessings.